Hiya, I wanted to make a video about something called Section 136 under the Mental Health Act. I think it's only in the UK, so also I don't know about other people's mental health acts. But Section 136 is a power that police have. If somebody is in a public place and are deemed to be a danger to themselves or to other people, the police can, under Section 136, can take them to a place of safety. Now, this is normally meant to be a psychiatric hospital or a crisis centre, but quite often people are taken to police stations, and that happened to me about 2 years ago. I was very suicidal, and I wasn't really hiding that fact, and I was in public, and some police officers came across me and asked if I was okay, and I expressed the fact that I wanted to die. They kind of talked to me for a little bit, and I told them that I'd harmed myself already, and they asked to look, and they obviously then saw that I had lots of scarring to my arms as well as recent wounds. They looked through my bag and found one single tablet, which was actually a ibuprofen tablet that had actually just ended up in the bottom of my bag, and they decided that they needed to detain me. And by that point, I got very stressed, and I kind of wanted to get away from them. So I actually became quite violent, which isn't like me at all. I'm quite possibly the least violent person you can ever come across. But I think I was very scared, I was very ill, and all of a sudden there's police officers and all this attention on me, and I panicked. So I actually became very aggressive, and I ended up being pinned to the floor by 4 male police officers. They handcuffed my hands behind my back and put leg restraints on my legs. They called an ambulance, and I was carried into the ambulance and driven to a hospital because they were concerned that I'd taken something. So I was kept in the hospital to have my blood taken, and I was held onto the bed for that by the police officers, and I was kept in handcuffs and leg restraints the whole time I was in hospital because I was being very aggressive still. And my parents arrived because the hospital had called them, and I calmed down a lot more when I saw my parents. I think it kind of calmed me down because it was people I knew. My blood test result came back fine, and so the police officers then decided to take me back to the police station. My parents asked to take me home, and they said they'd look after me, but the police wanted me to go back to the police station. So I was taken back to the police station, this time with the handcuffs and leg restraints off, as I'd calmed down a lot. And I spent 12 hours in a police cell with the police cell door open with a officer sat in the doorway. They did it in shifts, so one would sit with me for a few hours and then they'd swap. They watched me the whole time, and they recorded everything I did in a book, and I even had to be watched going to the toilet, which I found quite difficult. I think it was quite embarrassing for me, and well, I think it'd be embarrassing for anyone. At one point I was getting very stressed again, and I had a blanket, and under the blanket I was kind of really picking at my upper arms and creating quite nasty kind of a wound on my arm while I was just picking and picking and picking. And the police officer noticed me doing it, so he came over and pulled the blanket back and told me not to do it again. But once he'd gone and sat back down, I started doing it again. So they re-handcuffed me and took my blanket and made me sit in the middle of the floor of the cell. I was really, really cold and kept asking for my blanket back, and so they made a deal that as long as I stopped picking at my arms and creating wounds, they would let me have my blanket back and let me lie back down on the bed. So, I did. Eventually, the people from the psychiatric hospital came to assess me, and I was assessed by a psychiatrist and a mental health social worker. And by that point I was actually feeling a lot better in myself, and after being assessed I was allowed to go home under the care of my parents and under the care of our crisis team to be monitored by them. This was a very traumatic experience, really. It took me a long time to understand why it had to have happened, and I was very angry that it happened, but now I know it was for my own safety. I was suicidal, and I was, going to harm myself, and so the police were only doing, what they thought was best to protect me. And like I say, it took me a long time to accept that, because I felt like I'd been treated like a criminal. But like I say, now I understand why it happened. I think the only thing I think, should have happened differently is I don't think a police station is the right place for somebody when they are in that frame of mind, because I was petrified, and I think there are better places that I could have been taken. I can understand, that, the police, they just take you somewhere, where they consider safe, but I just think that when you're ill, you're confused enough as it is, and all of a sudden you've got four big police officers pinning you down to the floor, handcuffing you on leg restraints, and it's going to make you more aggressive. Well, it did to me, because I was petrified. But I am, in the long run, I'm glad it happened, because I needed it. But I don't know whether the government can look at the way it's done, and whether there's more appropriate places that somebody can be taken. But yeah, I mean, that was my experience with it. I don't know if anyone else has had a section 136 under the Mental Health Act, and what their experience was and where they were taken. Be interesting to hear back. Okay, bye.